Hi, and welcome to 310 Ministries. My name is Mitch, and today we're going to go over a budget lesson. Last time we spoke about our testimony, we're talking about how me and my wife went through $30,000 in debt in less than 2 years. And this is how we did it. Now, it takes some time and effort, and it takes some discipline. And that first few months is going to be hard. I'm not going to lie to you. The first few weeks for us was very difficult, and the first time we actually sat down to do it was very interesting in itself. It took us probably about 3 hours to be able to get this budget set up to be able to go forward with it. And it's ever changing. Every time we sat down every week to do this, it would take some time. It would take some time to go forth and say to ourselves, okay, this is what we can do, and this is what we're not going to do. And that does take a few moments and some discipline in yourself to be able to say to your wife, or even if it's yourself and trying to say yourself. I would say if you are single, get somebody that can hold you accountable. Get somebody that is going to be able to go alongside you, and you're going to allow in your financial life that they can tell you, stop. You don't need to spend your money on this. With the envelope system that we're going to create, first of all, you're going to need an envelope chemise. You can pick these up at pretty much any dollar store. There's nothing special about them. They're about $1 a piece. And you're going to need a Bible. Today I brought my big Bible, the Big Thumper. This one I don't actually use for anything. It's just for looks. But I wanted to present this because this is very important. With your tithe is going to be your first envelope. The Bible is going to be what you're going to get your scriptures out of. Now, if it's something you're looking at it when you put your scriptures on envelopes and you're wondering what scripture do I use? Feel free to use Google or Yahoo or anything on the internet to be able to bring this up. A lot of phones have programs now, Bibles, and most people are familiar with this. But you can take the scripture that you need and put it on there. Now, when I say that, you don't want to have the scripture, doesn't have to be particularly for the envelope. For us on tithe, obviously we're going to use Malachi 3:10 and put that on our tithe envelope. You're also going to want a box of envelopes, and I have some sitting out here for us already that we can go off of. But you want to make sure that you're setting each envelope up for what you're going to use it for. And we're going to get into that here in a little bit. Proverbs 27:23. Learn all you can about your sheep. Take care of your goats the best you can. Neither wealth nor nations last forever. And that scripture teaches and talks about the idea of you need to understand where you're coming from with your money and what you owe out. Debt, you don't want to owe no man but to love him, is what Jesus says. So here's what you need to do first. You need to get your budget together. And you start out like this. How much do you bring in a week? Are you bi-weekly? Are you monthly? What is your income coming in? You want to get a piece of paper and you want to write this down. What you bring in on your net. Your net is going to be the cash on hand that you have. As soon as you get paid, when you start this, you're going to go to the bank and you're going to withdraw all the money that you got out of that check. And this is very important. You wanted to use cash. Reason why you want to use cash. You're going to see it literally leaving your hand into an envelope, and you're naming that cash. You're naming it for rent. You're naming it for your mortgage. You're naming it for your car insurance. And it's going to be less likely that you're going to take that money and you're going to go to that McDonald's or go to Pizza Hut and do those things. Or you're going to go on that trip and you're going to see those pair of shoes and you're going to buy those pair of shoes because you just named that money for something else. The other reason why you want to use cash is because those plastic cards go by too quickly. It doesn't represent anything. How many times were you in a store at the checkout line and you see that piece of gum or the jerky sitting there and you're going to think to yourself, I can buy that. I know there's money in my account. When you're not sure how much is exactly there. In your checkbook, you want to have a checking account, but you don't want to keep money in there except for the money that you're going to use to pay bills. Here's how this works. Once you get your envelope set up and ready, you're going to put on there first and foremost is your tithe. You want a tithe envelope set out first. This is why. God says if you tithe your 10%, the rest of your money will be blessed. You much rather have 90% of your money being blessed than 100% of it being cursed, correct? So take your tithe, and you're going to put on there, tithe. It's 10% of your gross. Not your net. The reason why you want your gross is because at the end of the year, you don't want to be wondering if you made tithe or not. Always be honorable to God. If you honor God, God will honor you. There's been times during our journey that we did this, that we would put our tithe in and we pay our bills, and we may not make it all the way to the end of our budget, but we trusted God, and the next week it was there. Or we actually had a little can, and no, you cannot have this can, as we've had many people ask. We had a little can, we put a few bucks in every week. It was nothing much, literally just dollar bills. We'd open that can up and there'd be 50s and 20s in there. We don't know how it got there. God will honor you when you honor him and you do what you're supposed to do. Luke 16:11. If you cannot be trusted with worldly riches, you will not be trusted with the true riches. And if you cannot be trusted with the things that belong to someone else, you will not be given anything of your own. You cannot serve two masters at the same time. You will hate one master and love the other, or you will be loyal to one and not care about the other. You cannot serve God and money. When you start your envelope, okay, there's different envelopes you want to put, obviously. Everything's busted out into fourths. In a month, you have 4 weeks. Now, most of America is paid weekly, some bi-weekly, obviously, and some monthly. So you're going to bust it into fourths if you're weekly. If you're bi-weekly, into 2. So you got 2 weeks and 2 weeks. If you're paid on monthly, then you're going to plan ahead each month and try to get your bills paid before. The first step you want to do when you start your budget is you want to set yourself a goal. You want to set yourself a goal of an emergency fund of $1,000 is about where you want to be. Reason why? There's always going to be something coming in. Eventually, you're going to have a problem with your car. You're going to have a problem with a medical bill. And you want to have this emergency fund to be able to substantiate that, to be able to take care of the need when it arises, until you get well beyond using this budget. It takes time, literally, but the average census in America to pay off debt is about 2 years. You want to be excited about it, and this will teach you with discipline to be excited about your money. Again, I keep rambling on about this. To start your envelopes, first one, you want your tithe. So 10% of your gross, and then you're going to pick a scripture out. Now, the scripture we were using for ours, we just had a bunch of scripture cards we picked up at the dollar store. It wasn't a big deal, it wasn't a big purchase, and each one has scripture. Like this one on it says Revelation 21:7. He that overcometh shall inherit all things, and I'll be his God, and he shall be my son. You know, if that's the one you want on your tithe envelope, that's the one you put on your tithe envelope. If that's one you want on your giving, your mortgage, your grocery, it doesn't have to be specific to the envelope. It just wants to be a point of contact to where you pray with your spouse or with the person that's going to come beside you and be accountable for you, that you can say, when you put that scripture on there and you put the money into the envelope, that both of you can have touched that envelope and pray that scripture. Now, it doesn't have to be a long prayer. It doesn't have to be anything that's, cited from week to week. And there will be times after doing this for a few months that you will kind of get into a habit. That's okay. It's the point of contact where you're agreeing with that person helping you, or you're just agreeing with God, but you're making a point of contact with God. And that's going to be your big thing. With the tithe envelope, you're also going to have a secondary book. Just a little notepad. Nothing has to be huge. With that notepad, you're going to put down what you want your tithe to be for. So if you put your tithe down, we're going to make this easy for math. Say you're going to bring in about $400 a week between you and your spouse, and you take that money. So $400 your gross, $40 is going to go into your tithe envelope. You're going to pray about that scripture that you put on there, and you're going to write it down as something that you're believing for. Say if you work second shift and you're believing to get on first shift. Say somebody in your family is sick and you're believing for the healing. But you want to write that down. You want to sow your seed with a purpose. Seed that's scattered, that you have no idea what it is, and you throw it out in the ground and you plant it. You don't know what's going to grow, but you want to know. You want to have that purpose for that seed. So when you plant corn, you're expecting corn to come with a harvest. That's what the purpose of that is. So once you get your tithe taken care of, you're going to go on to your next one. You want to take care of your 4 walls first. I would suggest that you go on to the giving envelope. You want to have another scripture on it and set aside some money right up front to give. It doesn't have to be much. If it's $1, it's $1. You don't have to give it each Sunday when you go to your local church. You only want to give it when you feel led to be given to. Same thing. You'll put the money in, you'll read the scripture, you'll pray over it, and you'll move on. Rent or mortgage. Whether you rent or you have a house, your purpose is to make sure that you are providing for you and your family, or providing for you and your future. You want to take care of your barns. You want to be able to have what you need for your home. So you know that first thing after your tithe and your giving is to say, I know my place is paid for, and you can go to work. So you're going to put that down. You put another scripture down. You're going to reach over and pray for it. Next one, grocery. You need to have food. Everybody needs to have food, right? Who doesn't like to eat? When you create your budget, and I'm going to pause on this. When you create your budget and you start to get everything you have in your paycheck and you lay that out and you're ready to go, you also want to know what you have for debt. You want to go in and make sure, who do you owe? Now, if you have a question, you're thinking to yourself, like me, when I started this, I had no idea who I owed. I knew I owed people, and I left them behind. You can go to freecreditreport.com and print out 3 of the top 3 credit reporting agencies, Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. Once a year, you can print those free credit reports out. I suggest that you do this. If you need to go to the library to do it, go to the library and do it. When you print these out, this is going to tell you with each crediting agency who you owe. You're going to take that time, look through, see who you didn't pay last time, see who owns something that you think you have. You know, all the stuff's going to be on this credit report. And it takes time to look through, but this is why I said it took us about 3 or 4 hours to do this first time, because it takes time. Once you get beyond this step, you'll know who you owe, and you can make sure that you get out of debt. Owe no man nothing except to love them. Okay, back to grocery. When you do the grocery envelope, you want to make sure that you're not being frivolous with it. By the time you get done with your budget, there should be no cash left to be able to go out. You want to have a zero balance when this is done. So me and my wife, we did the grocery. We did it for $70 for 4 people a week. Now, it was a lot of small shopping. We didn't go to our big shopping centers and get steak and cuts of beef. We just bought the little round things of hamburger. We took our time. You know, I bring up a point that another financial teacher, and you may have heard of him, Dave Ramsey, says, if you live like no one else, later on you can live like no one else. That point is great. He's awesome when he thinks about these type of things, and his program is definitely good. And I've been taught under his program. But what really drew this Miracle Box program to me was the emphasis on Christ and Scripture. This is what allowed us to get through. And we have faith and a testimony, obviously, 310 Ministries, from this. When you create your grocery, be aware of what you spend. And then put in there only what you need to spend. And then don't spend over it. Take that envelope out of your chemise. So if, like us, we'd had $70. We took $70 with this grocery. And sometimes it takes planning. We knew what we were going to have for the next 6 days. Whether it was, a simple macaroni and cheese dinner, or we did loaded nachos. And loaded nachos is probably one of my favorite meals. And you can probably do that for under $5 for a big meal. So make sure that you're spending only what you need. Next envelopes, you're going to want to have one for your cell phone. If you don't have a cell phone, great. That's just one expense. And that may be an expense you need to cut out. If you're looking at your budget and you're going, this is all I have, say, I have $200 to get me through this week. And you get all your envelopes set out and you're over and you're spending more than you're bringing in. Cell phone might be one you need to get rid of. If you have a home phone, for ages we lived without cell phones. Maybe it's your home phone. If you have a cell phone, why do you need a home phone? Cut it out. Next one could be cable or internet or your home phone. A lot of times those get packaged together. For us, we cut out our cable. We really took a step back and realized, how much do we watch and what do we watch? We were only watching like 1 or 2 channels. And we were able to keep the internet and just go straight to Netflix and Amazon and be able to get those same shows we were watching for way less than the price that we were paying for cable. So we did that. We cut it out for a while. And it helped. It helped us be able to overcome these things. Another one that you could do, license and tags. Once a year, you have to get tags for your vehicle, and every 4 years, you have to get your license renewed. Plan these things ahead. It's here in Ohio, it's about $50. So we put $1 in the envelope every week. 52 weeks, end of the year, it's there. We got it. You want to have an envelope for play. You want to have that time and money to be able to say, okay, maybe I don't go out every week, but every 2 weeks I can be able to get $20 together and I can go out to eat, or we can take that date night. And that $20 bill, that was us, but that doesn't mean that's you. Whatever you feel comfortable with, as long as you can be able to make your budget happen. One we did for our families, medication. We take medication, every day for certain things, and we plan ahead for that. Doctor's visits. If you know you're going to go to the doctor, plan ahead for that. Clothes. And then lastly, bills. You also have car insurance, car payments, and gas. With the gas envelope, you want to be honest with yourself. If you know that you're going to spend $40 a week on gas, don't tell yourself, well, I think I can cut it down to 30, because you're not. You're going to hit at 30, and then you're going to be going, where's the money at? And you're going to pull out a different envelope. You don't want to do that. Be honest with yourself. What you can do with these situations, if you're worried about putting too much into that, put a cap onto that envelope. So like our doctor's bills, our doctor's visits. We knew that once a month we were going to see the doctor. So we planned ahead that possibly we might get sick and there might be another doctor visit. So until we hit, say, our copay was $25, we might cap that envelope off at 50. So once we hit 50 in our budget, okay, that week we ain't putting that envelope in and we're not going to worry about it. But next week we'll check it. Hey, is it 50? It's 50 still. Okay, we're not going to use it. We also did things like for us and our family, since we did do the Amazon and Netflix, we had an Xbox and we had Xbox Live. We'd budget out until we hit that $60 for that month, and when we'd cap it off. Once we hit that $60, we'd stop. If we had a little extra money, sometimes we might put it into that envelope as well and be able to just get it out of there. School lunches. Another one would be school fees. It's about $55 for us to be able to send our kids to school each year. So we'd be able to say, okay, we got our income tax, we're going to take that money, we're going to put $55 in there, we're going to put that envelope in the back of the thing, and we're not going to touch it. And you're able to overcome a lot of obstacles by planning ahead. So when you're doing this, you want to take your time. You want to be diligent with what you do. And times it's going to be difficult. At times you may not make your budget. But at other times you're going to look at it and say, wow, look what God did for me. And you're going to say, I did it. I was able to overcome. During that 2 years of paying that debt off, it was hard at times. There was times I looked at my wife and I said, Casey, I don't know how we're going to do this. I haven't seen improvement. And then all of a sudden, something would come along and we'd pay that bill off. We had all these bills, and you want to use a way of saying, okay, what do you pay first? You don't want to have to go and say, well, my credit card's got the highest interest rate, and I'm going to pay that one off first. And here's the reason why. You want to start with the smallest bill first, because you want to build momentum, and you want to build diligence. You get that small bill paid, and you go on to the next one, you have a win. You get that little small one, you take the money you're paying on the first one, and you add it to the payment you're paying on the second one, and goes that much quicker. And you have another win. The wins are what matters, because you can realize looking back after a year of this and say, I paid off this and this and this and this, and now I have this to be able to pay off that. And then once you get completely out of debt, you get so excited that you're able to give more. And giving is a big thing. You want to be able to give, because that's what turns God into saying, I see my child doing what he's supposed to do. Next lesson, we'd like to be able to get into 4 types of giving. You have your tithe, you have your seed, you have your first fruits, and you have your alms. And we'll get into each one of those. So thank you for joining us today. I'm excited to have you with us and bring you on this journey. And as always, check us out on Facebook and YouTube. Thank you.